Now, over 1 million registrations were logged on Saturday alone. Hundreds of thousands of people also made use of the online portal. For more on that movement and the weekend's drive, we're joined by the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa Executive Chairperson, Terry Tselane. Mr. Tselane, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. Overall, your assessment of the performance of the IEC over the last 2 days, how would you rate it?
Good evening to you and to your viewers, and thank you very much for having me. I must say that both the Electoral Commission as well as the political parties appears to have done a fantastic job in terms of mobilizing people to participate in the process. As you know, that the voter registration and participation in the electoral process is a joint responsibility. It's a joint responsibility between various stakeholders, but the political parties as well as the Commission have got a major responsibility to play in terms of making sure that there are as many people as possible participating in the process. So thus far, it appears that it has been a successful weekend in terms of mobilization of people to register to participate. Of course, as you know, with the information that we receive from the Statistics South Africa, it is clear that there are quite a number of people who still out there who qualify or are eligible to participate in the process but have not as yet registered. Yeah. So I think the political parties and the Commission still have another responsibility to make sure that they continue to mobilize people to participate in the process, because the legitimacy of the electoral process is going to be dependent on the number of people who participate in the process.
So if you look at a province like KwaZulu-Natal, they had on the first day at least over 200,000 people showing up at the voting stations. Not all of them were there to register. Some of them were just there to update and check their details. But as far as new registrations is concerned, the province logging in, 60,000 new voters, not counting those who would have gone online. My sense is that for a province like KwaZulu-Natal, 60,000 new voters might be a little bit on the low side.
Of course, the numbers, even though they are big compared to the previous registrations, they are still low in terms of the total number of people who are eligible to participate in the process. And like you correctly pointed out, the number that registered in KwaZulu-Natal, but it's not only in KwaZulu-Natal, in all other provinces, is still low compared to the eligible people who should be participating in the process. And that's why I'm saying that, you know, both the Commission as well as the political parties cannot rest on their laurels. They've got to try to make sure that at least more than half of the people who are currently eligible are still are registered on the voters' roll. Of course, on the issue of whether those who are on the voters' roll will participate in the elections, it's another question, and then we will deal with that question at an appropriate time. At the moment, we just want to get as many people as possible to be registered on the voters' roll.
So 19% of them would have been, in this case, those who are registering for the first time, which means a large number of those who came there are people who have already participated with the election process previously, and they were there to update themselves, at least on the register. What does it say about the work, maybe not so much that the IEC needs to do, but also that the political parties need to do? Because it does seem that those who've already participated in the elections process are eager to participate again and to continue to participate, but there seems to be a struggle in getting those who have never participated before to come on board.
You are right. That we still have quite a number of people who are not participating in the process. But remember that if you look at the level of publicity that was generated during this process, it was not that high, and therefore you would still expect that the level of participation would not be as high as that. But also this could be attributable to the fact that the president has not as yet announced the date of the elections. Once the date of the elections is announced and the Electoral Commission then organizes another registration, we will probably see a lot more excitement around preparations for the elections, and therefore, I think that there will be more people who will be participating in the elections than with the current registration. So the excitement will definitely be generated by the announcement of the date of the elections at the time when the president does so.
So previously, of course, we have seen these instances where people will want to leverage this voter registration weekend to air their grievances around service delivery. Do we have a strategy and a way of political parties, or at least local municipalities and leadership in those municipalities, to address that situation so that it does not interfere, I suppose, with the registration process as it does in most instances, and has some severe impact here and there?
My view is that protests are part of the political landscape in the country, protected by the Constitution, and therefore there's nothing really wrong with people using or taking advantage of the platform that is created by registration to air their dissatisfaction about what is going on in the country or in their specific areas. But of course, the Commission as well as the political parties have got to try to make sure that even though there are those who are not happy, we still are able to get registration stations open, and then that those who want to register can still be able to register. But I think political leaders and political parties, particularly public representatives, in other words, those who are already elected into position of power, they've got to understand that they've got a major responsibility in terms of making sure that people can believe in democracy and electoral process. Because if people get elected into position of responsibility, but they do not deliver the services that they've actually promised their constituencies, then people begin to have doubt about the efficacy of a democratic project and elections in general. So in order for us to be able to instill hope and belief in democracy, those who have been elected public representatives, they've got to make sure that they deliver to the constituencies that have elected them, so that people can actually believe in the democratic project.
Yeah, 100,000 online registrations. Is that a good number? Is that a sign, for example, of, you remember the previous conversation that we were having around whether or not we can move the voting process to be online, remove paper, for example, paperless voting as it happens in other developed countries?
I think it is still too low, particularly because we are saying that the reason why young people do not participate in the electoral process is because they do not want to go and queue in the voting stations. And therefore, online voter registration has actually been made available as a platform, particularly for young people to make use of. Now, if they do not take advantage of the platform that is given to them, then it means there must be something wrong in the manner that we actually trying to mobilize them. So it is important that we begin to look at messaging of our processes and our how we trying to incite and mobilize young people to participate in the process. Are we reaching them in areas where they are available? Are we going to their platforms? Are we on TikTok? Are we on Twitter or X? Are we on Facebook? Are we in all these other platforms where young people are participating? And are we using that effectively to try to mobilize them to participate? Because the number that you have just given clearly is too low compared to the expectation we have in terms of the number of people that we think should actually be participating in the electoral process.
And so the commission now being seized also, I mean, with resolving some online registration issues. I was engaging with my son earlier on. He was also trying to register online, had some kind of online registration issue, which means that there could have been some teething problem in the system.
Yeah, I heard that also from the leader of the Democratic Alliance yesterday, saying that the commission should actually try to iron out those problems so that they don't recur, especially on the second day. I think the Commission must make sure that if it provides a platform, that platform is efficient and, people are able to utilize it for the purpose of registration. And then if you've got those kind of problems, they could also add to discouraging people from participating in the process. So I think going forward, they've got to try to look at the technical issues and try to see where problems could have been and try to make sure that they rectify those issues so that by the time we now go to the second registration after the president has announced the date of the elections and before the proclamation of the date of the elections, that we can get many people participating using the platform that has actually been provided to them by the Commission.
What is your analysis of the political question? I'm saying the political question, the squabble between, you can say EFF and SATU or COSATU, but largely directed at the ANC, and how the ANC the IEC, I beg your pardon, is addressing this question of officials who will participate in the various voting districts?
I think the Commission must really unburden itself of this problem of using teachers in the electoral processes. We are currently having the students having to be prepared for the examinations, and then for us to be having a debate about whether the teachers should actually be participating in the electoral processes as electoral staff, I think it is something that the Commission does not deserve. They should not be having this kind of a problem. Teachers should actually be in classrooms. They've got to be preparing our children to make sure that they can pass the current examinations that they're busy with. And the Commission has got to also begin to look at especially quite a number of unemployed graduates who are out there who have not actually had an opportunity to participate in any working environment. These people have got the skills, have got the capacity, and the Commission must begin to venture out there and try to get these people to participate in the process. By so doing, they are basically making a contribution to families that may not be having anything to eat, even though the amount of money that the Commission pays is not a lot, but it does make a difference in terms of a person who is not working. And I think the Commission should actually do that. But at the same time, they are creating efficiencies in their systems by getting young people to participate in the process, people who've got the skills, who've got the capacity, and at the same time, they are removing this kind of problem of whether teachers are affiliated to a particular union and that union is affiliated to a particular political party and that political party. That debate in itself, the IEC does not have to get involved in that particular problem. They've got to make sure that they focus on their logistics, they train their staff, and they focus on the delivery of the electoral processes without having to be seen to be defending whether the trade unions are members of a particular political party or not, and whether those political parties have got the right to participate or they are protected by the Constitution to be participating. I think, in my opinion, that kind of debate, resides elsewhere. The Commission must move away from there by making sure that they leave the teachers to focus on what they are constitutionally mandated to do, which is to teach our children, to prepare them for examinations, and then they've got to get many people within the society who can be able to do the work that the Commission is supposed to be doing, or that are mandated to do in terms of the Constitution, which is to manage, organize, and deliver the elections, ensure that those elections are free and fair, and declare the results thereof.
Executive Chairperson of the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa, Terry Tselane. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your analysis this evening.